Politically incorrect. Julius Malema, very brave, and there's a reason I'm not a politician and he is because I disagree with a lot of the things that Julius Malema does. Maybe the messaging, how he packages messaging, and so here's one of the reasons why you should listen to Julius Malema discussing foreign policy.
But to Beketu, can you please ask Mr. Malema if he's ready to change open border policy, because it's alleged that the open border policy destroyed his party. That's a message there from Legasa. This is one of the questions that I have around the issue of immigration and how you think you have addressed it. Because when I told people you're coming on the show and I said, what issue do you want me to raise with Julius Malema? A lot of them said, please get his thoughts on the issue around immigration and whether he thinks the messaging has been correct over the years. What is your view on that?
My brother, in 2014, I was told to change land expropriation without compensation because the messaging is not right. They will always find something to attack you. They split hairs. And when I stood firm on land expropriation without compensation, they were even doing campaigns, giving people title deeds. They say, people want title deed, this person is going to take your land and all of that. All of a sudden it has changed. It's no longer about the land. This open border policy was there in 2014, was there in 2019, but it didn't work. What else can we find to attack them? Whether me and you like it or not, there are no borders in South Africa. That is just something written for formality on the founding manifesto of the EFF. There are no borders, my brother. I can tell you, it's like we behave like a mad person who has got a shack and a yard. He's given a stand with a shack. He goes and put a gate where there's no fence. You put a gate. When you go to Mqimbi, where Yamalopo, ukia gate here like a lock. Yet you don't have a fence. When you come back and unlock that gate and open. Your neighbor is looking at you. He's like, what is this? Gate and Mackenzie was running all over Limpopo River, saying he's chasing Zimbabweans who are crossing into South Africa, almost eaten by crocodiles for doing that. But the foolish him, he didn't know. He was proving what I'm saying correct, that there is no fence. So what open border are you talking about, which is not happening now, which is going to happen after the EFF takes over government? These Africans have always been here. If you doubt, there is a language called Fanaka law. It was formed long before the arrival of the EFF. Why? The migrant laborers met. They couldn't communicate amongst themselves when they were building South African economy. It was built by Zambians, it was built by Mozambicans, it was built by Zimbabweans, it was built by South Africans who could not communicate amongst themselves. They formed a language, Fanaga law. Where was the EFF when these migrant laborers were here? I'm just saying, we must not find ourselves behind time. The EFF is being punished for being ahead of the times. We say things now, you guys come to appreciate them extremely late because we're too far in thinking. So, and these Africans, when you needed them, they were there for you. The frontline states were there. People got killed in Lesotho. People got killed in Mozambique. People got killed in Swaziland, in Botswana, because they were suspected to have been harboring the terrorists, meaning your liberators, your liberation movements were alleged to have headquarters in those places. Someone says, don't tell us about Nigerians. You even go to an extent of saying Nigerians gave us money for our liberation. It's true. From the civil servants of Nigeria, monies were deducted from them to support the liberation of South Africa. So today we are in a comfortable place. We say we don't want them. The EFF agrees that we don't want undocumented people in South Africa. How can we say South Africans must get IDs and then welcome people who are not undocumented? everybody has to be documented so that if any wrongdoing happens, for whatever reason we are looking for you, we need to find your location.
Yeah.
So we need to find a way. They are here already. You go and put them in Lindela with our state money, which you are saying it's supposed to buy medicine. We pay buses. We take them back. They come back the following day, not next week.
So what would be your solution as the EFF?
The solution is let's go and document these people.
So don't deport them, rather find a way to formalize them.
We need to document them, because whether you like it or not, my brother, they are here. You know what they do in December? They hand themselves over in Lindela so that they can go and eat Christmas at home. And then in January, they come back. That money could have been used on some feeding scheme to feed the children of the poor or in the clinics. The reality of you are in denial. There's xenophobic people are in denial. That's a problem. They are in denial that these people are here. They think they are still coming. Yeah. They are not coming, they are here. How do we deal with that?
What about the issue of scarce resources? Because you know about the unemployment in this country. And what government is trying to do is also make it difficult for foreign nationals to have jobs here. Not necessarily make it difficult, but you need to find a way so that you don't get a helper or anybody else where there's no scarce skills who gets a job here without considering South Africans first. So how do we deal with the issue of scarce resources? Because when you've got all of them here and you're saying let's formalize them, we don't have jobs. So the competition is high. So you're going to have South Africans that are without jobs. Some of the jobs are really taken by some of the foreign nationals, whether they're here legally or not.
I've never had a country where it says it doesn't want to grow. Numbers matter when it comes to geopolitics. China, it is what it is because of its size of its population.
But its economy is growing very well. Ours is not.
Because the leadership is working. Let's industrialize. Let's make sure that manufacturing grows in South Africa. Let's create jobs. But all I'm saying is, you are saying these people are coming to take jobs. Which jobs are you talking about? Because there are no jobs that South Africans are accepting which are a reflection of slavery. These people are being enslaved here in South Africa. And when you say they've taken South Africans' jobs, you are saying South Africans must be enslaved. These are not jobs. These are slaves' jobs, which South Africans don't want to work abnormal hours, to work under difficult conditions, and don't get paid, and don't have rights. So no South African wants that. At the level where it's a required skill, South Africa makes it very clear that we must give preference to South Africans who've got the similar requirement. Unless we don't have artisans, then we go and fetch from other countries. We're going to chase these people out of South Africa. Tomorrow, the whole plumbing system and sewer system of South Africa will go into a blockade and will not be in a position to help ourselves because we don't have artisans.
Yeah.
The whole of South Africa will go into electricity crisis because you chased away the electricians.
But we do have South African plumbers and South African electricians.
But they are not enough. They can't meet the demand. It's like saying we produce chicken in South Africa, therefore we can't take chicken from South Africa. We don't produce to the capacity of the demand of South Africa. So all I'm saying is, where a job is given, a South African with same qualifications should be given a preference. We cannot prefer a person who's not a South African to the one that is going to pay tax in South Africa. And that is not what we are dealing with. I want you to present any stats to me that says, if we deport these foreigners, so many jobs are going to be created. Look at what's happening in education. We are retrenching educators. Not because foreigners have taken the positions of educators. We don't have the political will to sustain those jobs. As a result, they're going to be lost, not because of any foreigner. The steel factories have closed down, not because of any foreigner. The Infrastructure in South Africa is decaying because there is no leadership that wants to look after that. It's not a foreigner. Manufacturing, which used to be the biggest contributor to our GDP, it has actually been replaced by finance, which doesn't create a lot of job opportunities for our people. But you know that if you go into manufacturing, you are going to create a lot of jobs. A factory, manufacturing used to account for thousands of jobs, more than 150,000 jobs in manufacturing alone. Today, you can't count more than 80,000 of jobs in manufacturing. So you can't say the foreigners have actually, the jobs are still, the 150,000 of them, the foreigners have taken them. No, the factories have closed down and jobs were lost, not because foreigners came in, but because the financial sector has overtaken manufacturing, and financial sector does not want to deal with industrialization. Anything long term, the financial sector does not want to support it. Why? Because they deal with hot money. They deal with what short-term investment, and they don't want anything to do with long-term investment.
Let's talk about the EFF electoral performance.
Yes.
It wasn't the best of results. You're now under 10%. Do you think that part of the problem, I'm sure you've done your assessment by now of whether or not some of the things the EFF did or said were a result of that electoral performance. And I wonder if your approach in Parliament over the years was also a part of the problem in your view, because you did say after elections that our strategy is now going to change. You're not going to see us shouting and being kicked out of Parliament. We're going to no longer disrupt parliamentary meetings, but instead focus on playing a robust opposition. Do you think that also affected your performance?
No, that is what sustained the EFF. You can't introduce yourself like you have been here. You ought to introduce yourself in a manner that you will be felt that you have arrived. So you must learn the law of presence. So for the past 10 years, we're establishing the presence of the EFF in Parliament through the approach and through our regalia, which was a reflective of representation of the working class. We never lost support because of that. Because that behavior, if you check it, by the way, it was worse between 2014 and 2019. It was more robust and more radical and got us more vote in 2019. Why would it lose us vote in 2024? I'm just saying, my brother, we must not listen to people who have a mind of a rat, who can't think behind 10 years as to what happened previously and what's happening now. Then we get numbers in 2019, which we never expected. Boom, in KZN, 350,000 to the EFF. When we look at why did we get this result, it's because there are people who are angry with Cyril Ramaphosa in the ANC and who are fighting for Zuma, and they've got no home. That's why they ended up taking cover under the EFF. What the EFF failed to do was to take that opportunity and intensify political education and convert them into permanent supporters of the EFF. So the EFF lost no numbers to anything except losing numbers to that which never belonged to it. And EFF did not take effort to win it over. It just took it as obvious that these people are ours. Whereas when Marshall was giving us results in KZN, in 2019, we were actually shocked. He says we passed 100,000. We passed 200. I said, don't play such games. He said, hey, man, we're coming this way. So we were shocked in 2019 by KZN performance the same way we're shocked now by KZN performance. No policy position. So let's take open borders. Why Mashaba did not get 10%? Because your measure of success, all of you, is 10%. That if you support an open border where there is African unity, you lose vote. Why didn't Mashaba get the votes? Why didn't get the Lepantiti get the votes? Because he jumped there, almost fainted. Mabahambe, mabahambe. He got nothing close to 10%. Mashaba and Gaten Mabahangbe group combined still don't come close to the EFF.
But they're not as old as the EFF.
And they still did not get what the EFF got when the EFF was their age. Don't forget that. So you must true. Compare those things. Yeah. Don't be ahistorical.
Yeah. Let's talk about so how do you crystallize that support though? Because the MK party really ruffles feathers now. Yeah. A lot of parties, including yourselves, are feeling. How do you go back to the drawing board?
Makai, we lost less than 1%, but you guys are projecting us as if we lost 17%. The ANC lost in this election, but the ANC is being covered with the face of the EFF, the same thing you did with VBS, to put the EFF to be the face of VBS and not the ANC. The ANC lost big time. The EFF is going to regain its lost ground because the EFF, its policy and its leadership did not do anything wrong to offend South Africans. If anything, we're working very hard, and we're the only organization that works very hard for South Africans. None of these organizations put boreholes. None of these organizations renovate old age homes. None of these organizations, as organizations, take children to schools, re-gravel the roads, try to patch the potholes,
Clement asked him, do you not think of all your excuses of land and stuff, you should worry about, for instance, scarce resources? And then Julius Malema tells him that if these foreigners leave South Africa, there's going to be shortage of plumbers and electricians because those jobs are, in essence, jobs that have foreigners working. And I got to think of it, and I'm like, well, he even challenges Clement to say, if you can prove to me scientifically that we have lost elections because of this stance, maybe something else. And I've not seen Julius Malema producing evidence. So, but let me tell you something. That's why I say I agree with a lot of Julius Malema things say, and he even said, particularly on these borders, that the EFF is far ahead of other political parties, and they are suffering because of that. And in some way, I agree with him, because the borders are a vision that is far ahead of our time. But other political parties, and South Africans in particular, they say, yes, it's far ahead, not now. They agree with Julius Malema, so it's not rocket science. South Africans in the majority, they agree with Julius Malema to say, yes, this is the case. You have not, by the way, brought anything new. We know, but we are not. We're saying not now. We are not ready, and his detractors will say you a lot of things. But I've said on the channel many times, and I'll keep saying that I said it. People understand what EFF means. It is just the problem with the messaging of Julius Malema, because Julius Malema is a very hard politician. You could say stubborn if you want to. And maybe people might misconstrue this as being rude when you use the word stubborn, because they may not understand. Maybe I should use another words in my vocabulary, maybe to speak about stubborn, because they might have a problem with it. But stubborn meaning that Julius Malema will not shift, and even if he flip-flops, because that's the word we use when somebody shifts away from his principle in politics. Even if he flip-flops, he will flip-flop and still say, I did not change my mind. You understand? And that is the problem with Julius Malema. Look, I agree with him in a lot of things. And even more, he says PA and Action SA, they are the ones who have a policy against against no, but they have a policy that embraces foreign nationals. Well, I'm not sure about Mashaba embracing foreign nationals, but let's talk particularly point Patriotic Alliance, because they have made it their mission. He says they, Patriotic Alliance, of course, he's also stated that they do not go to conferences. They went to the border and almost, their men almost collapsed, but what they were championing the fact that they do not want foreigners. But even their stance, they still did not make the numbers that Julius made. So he says scientifically, if Julius dropped because of foreigners, why didn't Gayton rise because of foreigners? Gayton didn't rise. Gayton didn't beat Julius Malema. You understand? And Julius Malema is right. If this thing of the borders, I remember speaking to Mpomorolani, by the way, just the week before, and I said to Mpomorolani, you do know that the EFF is deliberately misquoted just to sow division within EFF and also sell them short into the electorate. He says yes. That's Mpomorolani before he left. I think a week before he left, maybe 10 days before he left. We spoke about it. And EFF, I still follow my stance. EFF just needs, because Julius Malema said a lot of right things in this podcast, but on this segment only of open borders, he said a lot of things that make sense and that scientifically can be challenged. But it doesn't matter. People are using what he says, even if he's correct, to sow divisions on him. They are, and I don't know how Julius will find it in his mind to say, maybe let me give them a chance to see. Maybe let me give them a chance to see. Let me see what is it that I've jumped. Well, he says the money that they are using. He uses that old adage that he says that people leave Lindela Repatriation Center to go to home and then they bring themselves back, but when they go home, he says that money could be used to buy other things. Hey, Julius. He says so. So, but let's talk. But I'm still wondering what kind of a leader Julius Malema would be if he stayed in the ANC, because not a lot of people would have welcomed his hard stance. Because Julius Malema is a big tough bull, and a party like the EFF is the only party, and like MK, if he had formed the MK, is the only party that can accommodate him. And I don't want to talk about other issues, like where he flip-flop on the fact that he said he will welcome Floyd back, but Floyd said he's not going to be welcome. He was defeated by his party member who said, don't do that. I doubt if it ever happened, but I don't want to talk about that now. Let me go back to the open borders. So the open borders, it's just one of those things, man. I just came back from, I don't want to talk about me and Overking, but it's another, one day we'll talk. One day, if I speak to him here on the podcast, because I don't want to speak about him when he's not here. But, I feel the EFF has a lot of contradictions. Lots and lots of contradictions. You see, every time there are raids, the food industry, the hospitality industry, there is always, every time there's a raid, there's always undocumented foreigners taking South Africans' jobs. A case in point is the one that Overking went to intervene in Babel, in Main Lane. We spoke, Overking and I spoke for the first time. We spoke, we agreed, we are going to have a meeting. I asked him, is this a press conference or is it a one-on-one? And he said, well, it's a one-on-one. You will not believe. He didn't pitch for that appointment. For me to have a one-on-one interview with him, he didn't pitch. But he called me and, well, it's a long story, but you will understand. So the things I tell you a lot about the EFF on the ground, you would think I'm rubbishing them. And so I'm not the kind of guy who would sit here and speak ill of people. But look, the more you guys press us to say we are discampaigning the EFF, is the more you understand if we tell you that these are what your leaders are doing. But anyway, let me stop about Obakeng. Like I said, I will speak to Obakeng when Obakeng is here, and I will relay lots of cases where Obakeng has done injustice in terms of how he works with the media. But anyway, I disagree with what Julius Malema has said. In the majority, based on him being a politician. But if it's not, he is correct in terms of the EFF being visionaries, being this and that. But for a politician, people who are blaming his party that it will, and people are using it against him. So he must just change the message and the messenger.